Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another Hearthstone deck guide. I'm JoRoSaR, nice to see you again, and we are going to be talking about Warrior today. Now, Warrior is currently the absolute most diverse class in Hearthstone, without a shadow of a doubt. Control, Tempo, Dragon, even Patron Warriors all still have places in the meta. And today we're looking at a very old and now reimagined archetype. It's going to be the one-turn kill combo warrior. And OTK Warrior's spike in popularity is largely thanks to Neville's, who's basically streamed it non-stop to #1 legend. He's done this multiple times now, and a lot of people are playing the deck as a result. So I'm not going to be showing you loads of different deck lists at the end of the video. Instead, it is more or less one single list, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at that here. There's literally just one build, and it's pretty standard, so if you like to slowly build the deck out yourself in Hearthstone, go ahead and pause the video now and maybe make a note of it, or even build the deck out in the game yourself while using the video as reference. You got that? Good. Because we're going to go straight into the introduction, our general strategy, and some of our key cards. First of all, one-turn kill warrior's sole win condition is very simply charge on top of a buffed raging Worgen to melt your opponent's life instantly. Very, very powerful. And since it puts on literally no pressure before triggering the kill, the list is otherwise built to cycle through the deck, and you just need to survive whatever threats you happen to face. Finding the one-turn kill combination as quickly as possible is obviously the #1 priority when you're actually playing OTK Warrior. Miracle Rogue and Freeze Mage players, if you're out there, if you're watching this video right now, you're going to be really familiar with this style because it features many of the same concepts and priorities. You're going to be fine and you'll totally get it. People who don't play those decks, that's cool. Just remember, be patient, basically make your decisions very slowly and calmly, and take your time to decide what is actually best to do. We'll come on to some of the decision making a little bit later. So let's take a look at some of the key cards. One could actually say that the key cards of this deck really are actually the cards that help you survive until one-turn kill, and not the one-turn kill combo itself. So, for example, Fiery War Axe and Execute are the bread and butter of the warrior class. A Wild Pyromancer is an irreplaceable board control mechanic, especially when paired with Commanding Shout. And Emperor Thaurissan is the key to many combo decks because it makes executing the one-turn kill much easier or more powerful, and Faceless Manipulator aids with doubling the combo damage. You're going to be looking out for that in your games. Alright, so that's all fairly straightforward. Let's go and take a look at the mulligan. Against all matchups, you're going to want to have the Fiery War Axe, Blood to Ichor, and Loot Hoarder to stall as much aggression out as possible. And if you're facing a particularly fast deck, so think Aggro Shaman or Zoo or maybe a Hunter, you're going to want to get a Wild Pyromancer in your starting hand too. If you know you're playing a very slow deck such as Priest or Control Warrior that won't put you on the clock, keeping an Emperor Thaurissan could actually be worth it because that helps your late game combo. You're going to spend a lot of the early game preventing your opponent snowballing his or her aggression. And if you put on a clock that you can't beat or you face a board that you can't clear, to be honest, it's a little bit lights out for you. That's kind of it. So throw away all your combo pieces, search for removal and card draw. You need to cycle like your life depends on it, because basically it does. And as a warrior, you will know to appreciate Fiery War Axe and Blood to Ichor, but in these early rounds, you will grow to love Loot Hoarder as well. At 2 attack, it serves a removal purpose and a cycle, the deck's 2 main goals in one greedy little package. So remember, the ultimate goal of the early game here is to draw as much as possible while suffering the least amount of damage. Now let's take a look at our mid game, where we're basically going to be walking the line. As a combo deck, you're going to have to get used to always being on the losing side of the tempo war. You're all about drawing and delaying and never being proactive, alright? And this also means that at many points in the game, you're going to have to make difficult choices. The big difficult choice that you're going to have to make repeatedly is whether you draw cards and let damage in, or you clear the board and you slow down your own cycle. This balance is really difficult, and it's almost impossible, frankly, to be taught by a video guide. It's so situational. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of general rules, and rules obviously are there to be broken, so I'm sure there'll be exceptions, but in general, drawing is priority number 1 unless you're about to die or your opponent is about to create an unkillable board. If you're playing versus control decks, this makes your choice a little bit easier than playing versus aggro decks, because the former just won't really punish you for the tempo loss while you're busy cycling through your deck. Another useful point is greed is good. If you bait your opponent into overcommitting, fantastic, clearing with Wild Pyromancer will be so much easier. But that said, you will live and die by the Wild Pyromancer in the mid-game, because it is your stabilization mechanic that allows you to survive until one-turn kill. So this is useful information if you're playing against one-turn kill warrior as well, because you know in the mid-game that your opponent is relying on the Wild Pyromancer to basically keep everything under control. Right, so that's pretty much it, to be honest, and I think that's almost the point where you can go ahead and play some of your games. But before we do, there's a vital piece of the puzzle that we're going to have to check out, and that, of course, are the combos. One-turn kill warrior doesn't really have a late game plan, guys, because if played right, you draw your combo pieces relatively early. To be honest, it's a little bit Game of Thrones-esque. You either win or you die. It's pretty straightforward. So once you've stabilized in the mid-game, you're going to have to start calculating how much damage you need. And you can see over here, to my right, are a whole bunch of useful combinations for you to keep an eye out for. And fortunately, not many decks in the meta at the moment can fully withstand a loaded combo at 10 mana. It is pretty devastating. Even without Emperor Thaurissan, you can deal 30 damage with all of the proper pieces in hand. So what does this mean? This means one-turn kill warriors' natural predators are decks like Control Warrior, because you can go out of burst range. They're decks like Freeze Mage, because it can block off one-turn kill, and it can clear your Worgen, and it can kill you, which is pretty bad. And really, really quick aggro decks that will kill you before you actually collect all the pieces. These are all naturally bad decks to be playing against, but most of everything else, you can actually start to build a really good presence. So hopefully that actually helps you a lot. So on the opposite side of the spectrum, you've got matchups like Zoo, and Warlocks obviously are going to be pinging themselves into comfortable one-turn kill range, and it's very dangerous to them. At any point in time, make sure you always know how much damage you have. And if you don't have enough, remember, what do you need to draw to get lethal? That's always the question you're going to be asking. So you'll see a lot of one-turn kill warriors, even though they're trying to go out there with the damage, just being very patient and calculating. And that's because you need to know exactly how much damage you're doing at all times and what you need to draw in order to get that lethal amount of damage. A smile will color your face when you realize that with just 3 cards, you can deal 16 and go up to 60 damage with a perfect hand and Thaurissan ticks. That's right, 60 damage is technically possible with these decks. And finally, just to make sure you guys don't forget, this card is oh so important. Getting a Faceless Manipulator doubles everything. So make sure you can get that in your hand and get that worked into the combos as much as possible. Emperor Thaurissan obviously playing a huge part in getting this on the board. So that just about wraps things up for One-Turn Kill Warrior. A relatively quick guide today, but that is because there is a single deck list and a single purpose and more or less a single way of playing it right. Hopefully this actually gets you to reasonably high up in the ladder. Like we said, it was popularized by Neville's, who managed to get it to #1 legend repeatedly, which is fantastic stuff. So hopefully you will be able to have some success with it as well. In the meantime though, I'll see you for the next time. You can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at JoRoSaR, and make sure you follow the Gosu Gamers Hearthstone channel. I'll see you for another Hearthstone guide in a week or so. Take care.